harm's way between our community and what they do. So thank you for them and bless their service for our country and our county. Bless their family.
Amen.
Second.
Establishment of quorum, we have Commissioner Diaz, Commissioner Barnes, and Commissioner Glidden. Public comment must notify the board to speak on certain agenda items. Public can comment by calling 915-213-3008. The PIN code is 769-388-008#, or in person by sending in the sign-in sheet provided. Consent agenda. Commissioners, anything that you would like to pull out of consent agenda?
Nothing. Motion to approve.
So motion by Commissioner Diaz, second by Commissioner Barnes. Commissioner Diaz?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Glidden?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 5, discuss and take action on reserve accounts submitted by Chief Esparza. Right there.
How you doing? Thanks for coming down here. For traveling all the way to Fabens. The country, the resort capital of El Paso.
Okay. So where do we start? We'll start with the numbers. The proposal is to start 3 different cash reserves. The primary objective of differentiating surplus balance sheet, designating them for future expenditures. So, in discussion with the district administrator, the proposal is to have minimum cash reserve, which is a best practice. We would like to establish a reserve for improvement, right? And that's going to help provide a rainy day fund for major projects and also for future projects. And last but not least, a reserve for payroll that can be used to cover operating adjustments, increasing staff size, and other items that can be related.
Okay.
So, here you go. Really quick, the explanation here shows very briefly the way how we're coming up with these numbers here that we're proposing for a reserve. And these numbers here, what you're seeing is those would be the limits, right? That would be the most that you would ever expect to see on those reserves. Last time we talked about this maybe 6 months ago, more or less, when this whole idea initiated. And one of the question is, okay, how do we know how much to put in there? What's our limit? So for the operating reserve, my suggestion is to have approximately the equivalent to cover 120 days worth of expenses or 4 months. For the reserve for improvements, that one is the most complicated because there are very, very different ways of analyzing what your capital needs are. However, in discussing with Mariana and Chief Esparza, it seems like the preferred approach is to try to keep this as simple as we can, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel every year. So what we're suggesting is going with your current budget for special projects, and then on top of that, adding an estimate of your annual cost for vehicles, right? So those two numbers add up to approximately $4.5 million, right? That would be the limit, right? It doesn't mean that's what you need to reserve today. And then the third reserve is a reserve for payroll. And similar to the concept behind the cash reserve for operations, the payroll reserve is based on your budgeted expenses or personnel. So it would be 3 months of what you have budgeted, and that would include salaries, payroll taxes, pension, and also fringe benefits like health insurance and whatnot. So if we were to grab your budget and prorate it to a 3-month equivalent, you would expect to spend approximately $700,000 for 3 months, right? So the proposal is really the answer is how do we start, right? So I think you all need to decide what is a good amount to do an initial deposit into these reserves, right? And again, this is money you already have. You're just going to set it aside in its own bank account, and it could be in your money market account, which is probably the one that pays the most interest, or in another account. I mean, you can also, if you were to venture into investing with, let's say, for example, an intergovernmental pool fund, a lot of governmental entities do that. You can use that as your reserve as well.
What is your recommendation on that, sir?
My recommendation is to go with the money market account. I'm not a financial advisor, so really my recommendation is that you guys talk with a financial advisor about that. But in the absence of that, what I've seen is I've seen money market accounts now paying upwards of 4%. So I would suggest a money market account that gives you at least that 4%.
Now, is there a penalty for pulling money out in case we do have a circumstance that requires us to buy 5 new trucks right away?
Right, not in a money market account, and that's what I think that offers the more flexibility. Certificates of deposit, they might get you maybe another extra 1% or maybe another extra 0.5%, but those tend to be a little more rigid. So you would need to stagger them, right? And that's another thing that you can do. You can stagger the maturities, and then that way you have a part of the reserve matures every year, another part of the reserve matures every 6 months, and you just keep renewing it. However, with the money market account, it's basically just like a bank account with a little more interest.
Now, where do we get the percentage breakdown for this? It seems kind of loose. You know, we talked about buildings, vehicles, payroll. We talked about like 3 other subline items that we would align this money against.
Correct.
And the percentage would be based off some type of analysis or metrics where, you know, we're not just saying, well, we'll put 25% here because 25 to 25 and 25 to 25 equals 100.
Right.
You know, because we know equipment will cost more than payroll.
Right. So
Buildings will cost more than equipment.
I mean, I guess the idea is, what is the limit? Okay, so the limit is, let's say, for example, the reserve for improvements, the limit there is $4.4 million. And that analysis is backed up, as you're seeing here in the screen, it is backed up by the budget for special projects, right? So you have all those special projects, and then you have Montana Vista, right? And then you have an average cost of vehicles, right? The average cost of vehicles is also supported by an analysis, which is this one. And you can see here the fleet that you have. I'm sorry about that. You can see the fleet that you have, right? The total cost of your fleet or original purchase cost is approximately $7.8 million. And based on when those vehicles were purchased, we can estimate when they're going to need to be replaced, right? So we can see based on a fleet with an original cost of $7.8 million and the remaining useful lives, and this is just estimated useful lives, right? We can estimate more or less what your expenditure would be every year for your fleet. So if we were to average that, that's approximately an average of $1.2 million a year.
Okay.
What you would expect, and this is a best guess, because like you're saying, there are multiple factors here. So my best guess is that you would need $1.2 million for your vehicles, plus all the special projects that have been budgeted, right? So that's the justification for the 4.4, right? That would be the limit. Now, how much do we reserve today? That's the part that it's really up to you all. I'm proposing 50% just because that number seems right to start with, right? But you can propose more, or you can propose 100%. moved into reserves, or you can propose less. Half of that would be
Because when we talk
2.2.
about moving into reserves, we're talking about investing into money markets.
Correct.
So we're not putting it in our right pocket to our left pocket. We're actually putting it in.
Right. Well, the other thing that
Someone
you're
else's
doing is that you're also setting up a self-restriction. So in other words, if you need that money, you all need to vote and approve it to release it from there. So that's what I'm saying. Okay, well, instead of reserving $4 million and then having to unrestrict it all the following month or something like that, maybe tentatively, and here's the tentative part, how much is a good number to reserve now? And it could be 100%, it could be 50%, it could be whatever. So if you were to reserve 50% of this reserve, 100% of the first reserve that I mentioned, and 25% of the payroll reserve, you would be setting aside $4.7 million essentially today. And you would be left with approximately $2.5 million, $2.2 million to play around with.
Which would put us at what percentage of our cash reserves that we're supposed to have?
About 68%.
With the 2.2, it's going to be 68%?
Now, with the 2.2, that would be unrestricted. And that would cover approximately 30% of your budgeted.
Which is where we're supposed to be.
You say that's what we're supposed to be. Is
Right.
that based off of county guidance or?
County guidance.
Yeah, it's based on how much months of expenditures on hand.
So the county does the exact same thing. They have their guidance for the 33%. And that's when we had the meeting with them, they're like, we need for you to do it the same way we do. We have a budget for cars. We have a budget for buildings. We have separate. We're not saying that you can't have more than that. We're just saying put it in different accounts so that you
No,
can fund
agreed.
those.
Yeah, I think
So-
we're agreeing on it, but.
Right.
So that's where we need to look at. And you also have to keep in mind that I think you have it in there like a $1.5 million for a station for Montana Vista. The next
Correct.
station that we're going to build is Fabens, which is already in the budget. And then the next one that we have to allocate for one is Socorro, which I'm going to venture to say that's not going to be a 1.5, that's going to be more like a $3 to $4 million station when it comes to said and done because of the neighborhood it's going in. So it has to be allocated for that. That's where we have to start with that.
Chief, remind me, when we first started on this, we were asked to keep 33%. Is that correct?
No higher than, they recommend no higher than 33%.
Right, but we thought that it was all keeping it in one account.
Right.
And not distributing it the way our new plan is, correct?
And we're following the same guideline, correct me if I'm wrong, there that the county uses. They use the exact same strategy that we're using right now.
Yeah, the county they have their own minimum cash reserve like we're showing here. And then they have a reserve for improvements. And what the county does this is by reviewing their financial statements, their audit, is they're setting aside 1 cent out of the property tax rate. So out of every dollar or every percentage that they raise in property taxes, 1 cent is going into this reserve. So what I recommend is that you guys come up with an initial deposit and then every year reserve 5% of your property tax revenue into the reserve. Okay?
Because it's different for us. We're maxed out at 10 cents, so
Right.
he's recommending the 5% instead of 1
1
cent,
cent.
because that would really be detrimental to us.
Yeah, so if you were to go with that, you would be reserving approximately $112,000 every year into the reserve. Yeah, so I guess the idea is just come up with agree on an initial transfer. You set that money aside and then every year it just continues to increase. And if you want to use the money, then it just needs to be approved by the commissioners.
Right.
I was just concerned, what analysis would have to determine the percentage difference, you showed that and that's.
Sure.
Makes sense, so.
Yes, and again, it's judgmental. At the end of the day, what you're trying to do, you're trying to show to the county that you are setting some money aside and you're not leaving it there as unrestricted cash.
Right.
Right, so you're imposing some self limits and you're saying, okay, we're just going to be left with $2 million for day-to-day stuff, right? And if we run out of those $2 million, then we need to use our minimum cash reserve. Or if we want to go and buy a new station or do something like that, let's first look at our capital reserve before we go and borrow some money. And let's see what makes more sense.
Okay.
And Commissioner, just to touch base, Teo, you did recommend that we create separate accounts for all these, right?
Not bank accounts, separate accounts in your accounting records, right?
So line item numbers. basically.
Line item numbers, right? So let's say, for example, in your budget, if you are budgeting to use your reserve, you would show that release from the reserve as a line item in your budget, as a source of income.
We're not doing Peter versus Paul.
Correct,
It's aligned against buildings is paying for buildings.
correct. Yeah, so let's say, for example, in your budget, let's say you're going to show these items, right? They're going to be expenses, right? And let's say your budget is out of balance. So you can either balance it out by borrowing money, so you would show money from loan to balance this out, or you can balance it out by showing a release from the reserve. And that's what I mean by creating the accounts. Yeah, because at the end of the fiscal year, you're always required to have a balanced budget, right? So if you have a big capital item coming up, you need to figure out how you're going to pay for it, right? So you either borrow money or you use your savings. So when you would be using your savings, you would be releasing the money from the reserve, and it would appear as a release authorized by the commissioners in your budget.
So we're making this approval today.
Correct.
So we're going to approve the 150.25 on the initial deposit for 2023. Is that what we're going for?
That is what they was recommending.
Okay.
Yes, it's in the 2023, what we have,
I think it'd be easier if we,
4.7 million.
if you all feel comfortable with this, to make a motion as presented by Teo Cabrera from SPNG.
Okay, I make a recommendation to go with,
What he said.
yeah.
Whatever I said.
with
No,
Teo's
I mean,
recommendation.
Mike, so like I said, it just looks too clean. I think if analysis were a little deeper, it'd probably say 61% versus, broken up. I think this covers it. So I think it makes sense.
I mean, I guess we can still
Who deposits?
fine tune it as we move along. correct?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes, I try to do this as simple as I can because this is going to evolve. I
Right.
mean, the initial point is for you all to adopt a policy,
Right.
right? Right now, you actually don't have a very robust investment policy either, right?
Agree.
What I've seen other governments do is they have other kinds of investments. Sometimes they invest in intergovernmental pools, like I was mentioning, and they have certain requirements that if they have excess cash, they're going to do X things with the excess cash, right? In your case, you do have 3 bank accounts, right? You have a reserve, you have a money market account, and then you have your operations bank account. But you don't actually have like a tolerance, right? For what is a minimum amount on these accounts, right? I mean, how much do we want to have in there? And is all the money unrestricted, right? And that's the main thing. And I think that's what the county wants to see. They're seeing $7 million in your bank account in the audit, and they're saying, why do you need more money? You have that
You
there.
have enough money.
Right,
yeah.
so the response is, yes, we have money there, but we're setting money aside for our buildings. We don't want to have less than 33% of the expenses, which would be the first reserve that I'm presenting.
Correct.
And in addition, this was the chief's idea, we want to have a little bit there in case we have we're hit with payroll increases, right? So having the policy would allow you to differentiate that in your audit. That's the first step. And what I ultimately see you guys doing is when there's a big project coming up, you would need to evaluate, okay, how much we have in reserves? You would be asking these guys, how much we have in reserves? And they would tell you, we have $4 million or $3 million or whatever. And then you would say, well, let's use that first, or let's keep it there and let's go and borrow money or whatever you think is prudent. That's the whole idea. And that's what I want to try to keep it simple. So nobody's breaking their head trying to just keep track of these numbers. Because at the end of the day, it's still your money, still in your bank account. We're just doing this so you can show the different layers of restriction.
We just gotta get away from the shoebox mentality of,
A little bit, yes.
I make a motion to approve what Dale has recommended to us for the 2023 and moving on forward.
Now, who would be responsible for putting this money into money markets?
It'll be the
We-
board.
It would, no, but the paperwork behind it, right? It would
that
be
your
me
company
keeping
or-
track.
No, we don't do any treasury functions or anything like
No,
that. Yeah.
we'd have to contact our financial advisor, which is Tom Lawrence out of Tijerina Lawrence, and
We need to probably, because we have a current money market, but the interest rate is not at 4% like you mentioned. So we do need to contact our financial advisor to recommend a new bank account or a new bank
New
to,
direction?
yes, with better interest rates.
Fair enough.
Right. My recommendation would be to adopt the policy and tentatively approve the initial transfer prior to obtaining, making a decision on the money market. That would be my recommendation to you all. And then every year, as part of the budgeting process, you all need to decide how much more money we're going to put in there each year.
Okay.
I have a motion, sorry, I have a motion by Commissioner Diaz. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who was a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Barnes. Commissioner Diaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
and Commissioner Glidden.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
No, thank you.
Thank you for taking your
Thank you,
time
Teo.
and coming out here, sir.
No problem. Hope I didn't cause any headaches here.
No, not at all.
Thank you for your time.
Commissioners, if I understand correctly, we'd like to break into executive session before we take on item number 6.
No, we have good problems. We got money, so.
Exactly. Yeah,
We're not
exactly.
trying to find money. We're trying to, protect the money our taxpayers provide to us.
Exactly.
So I appreciate your guidance on that. It means a lot.
All right. Thank you guys for your time too. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
being here.
Drive carefully.
Thank you, Theo.
Drive carefully. Just make a right, go that way.
The El Paso County ESC number 2 is entering into closed meeting pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551-071 to consult with district attorney concerning all matters identified on the agenda where the board seeks advice from their attorney as privileged communication. The date of Thursday, March 23, 2023, the time is 5:24 p.m. El Paso County ESD number 2 has completed its closed meeting. The date is Thursday, March 23, 2023. Time is 5:55. Item number
6.
Item number 6, postpone an item on special meeting Tuesday, March 14, 2023 by Vice President Diaz and Commissioner Barnes, discuss and take action on the crash between Chief 601, Raimundo Treviso, and a parked SISD school bus submitted by Chief Esparza. Chief. Chief.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know if we could even discuss this item now because if it's for the agenda, so no excited anything in school district. It doesn't make a difference.
I think the microphone's up.
Now, you said something about SISD?
Yeah, SISD stands for Socorro
No,
Independent.
no, no. It said discuss, take action on the crash between Chief 601, Raimundo Treviso, and the parked SISD school bus.
We can correct that. Parked SEISD.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
Gotcha.
legally we can discuss this item since it's written wrong on the agenda.
Good point.
I don't have a problem addressing the board with any questions that you might have reference this item.
It's been noted and corrected on my side.
All right. So this is an opportunity for Chief Treviso to make any comments or?
Correct.
Regarding this incident?
Okay, so on the day of the set date, which was a Friday, I can't remember the exact date. I just finished running a call in our district as a second unit out. The parade crew was on call. I was on another call. We're set to go to a volleyball tournament in Midland that same evening. Instead of going home and getting a personal vehicle, I went to the school, picked up my daughter. While I'm going around the construction cones they used to block off the bus egress, instead of getting off, I'm moving the barrel out of the way. I decided to go around the barrel. While I was going around the barrel, I felt the jolt and heard something hit the vehicle. When I looked at the mirror, my left mirror, I saw the construction barrel leaning over and the tires that hold it down, just pretty heavy tires, sidewalls, I guess, if you will, that hold that construction barrel down was underneath my side step. So I opened the door, moved the barrel out of the way, readjusted, and proceeded to where I normally park, where the school district has asked us to park before if we are in a marked vehicle. Had I not been to that call or anything, I would have been in a personal vehicle parked with the rest of the parents to pick up my daughter. So I proceeded to the parking area, and then school security approached me and says, "Hey, you hit the school bus." I says, "I couldn't have hit the school bus. I know I hit something because I felt it, but then I looked and there was a construction barrel that was still leaning on the side of my vehicle. And what made contact with it was the side step on the bottom and not necessarily the body of the vehicle." So I walked back there with security to the bus. There was no visible damage to the bus. They checked the vehicle, and even the SRO deputy at the scene said, "Well, if you would have hit that bus, there would have been some damage, some consistent damage. There's nothing consistent here. There are some scuff marks on the bumper that could have happened anywhere." So, I exchanged information with the school and says, "Here's my information. In my mind, I hit the barrel, there's no damage to the vehicle. Why go do a drug screen, you know? Next Monday, in the morning, when the school district called me and says, hey, the bus driver's claiming back injuries and all that. So that's when I called Roger and says, hey, this is what happened. He asked me for an email statement. I send him the statement. On the email statement, I says, I hit something. I just can't believe that I hit the bus hard enough to be able to have injuries consistent to what the bus driver is claiming. I would think that my airbags would have deployed. There would have been substantial damage. It's a 38-foot bus, if I would have hit it that hard, every feet is the jolt is diffused. I'm no expert in it or anything like that. I've been shown the camera footage. It is obvious that I hit the bus. Okay, I can't change that. Can't change what's already done. Okay, I've learned that yes, I hit the bus. Okay, so now it's time to, how do we go from this point forward to correct or to do what I need to do? I can't make it right because it's already happened. Right, and I'm here to answer questions that you might have that will shine clarity to anything. I'm just surprised that I'm on the agenda. It's an agenda item rather than it being, taken care of with a sit-down meeting or anything like that. I don't know why it escalated the way it did. I'm not the first one to do it. I won't be the last one. It's the nature of the beast and the business that we're in. We've been parked and we've been hit before as well. So I don't know what else to say on it. If I own it, I own it now. Had I known and been shown, I would have taken a different action that I did for that on that day. And basically, I'm leaving the Midland for volleyball tournament. They say I did it. There's no evidence. SRO deputy said there's no evidence even to do a report here. So I just went on that and went about my day. And that's when the next Monday is when everything changed and everything escalated. The bus driver took it to a different extent. I can't say that he's hurt or he's not hurt. That's not for me to speculate. If he says he's hurt, then he's hurt, and that's between his doctor and him. So I just need to know what I need to do from this day forward, or if you have any questions that I can answer for you.
You have no doubt this time that it's strokes.
Or no, not looking at the footage, and I was willing to go with Roger to look at the footage with the school officials there and everything. Roger told me it's best that he goes by himself. I trusted in Roger to be able to go to himself and to bat for me if there wasn't anything there. But it's obvious that something's there, okay? Looking at the camera footage. It is obvious that I hit the bus, okay? And I can't change that.
Chief, the only question that I have for you, are you aware what it says on the SOG when it comes to a motor vehicle accident?
Yes, and I've already explained that I didn't think it was necessary to go do a drug screen because of the nature of the situation. Had I not had that tournament, I probably would have done it anyway. It's not coming out of my pocket anyway. But, it's one of those things, do I go do it and waste 2-3 hours when I know I didn't hit something in my mind, okay? Or, there's nothing to hide, I'll do a drug screen. After the fact, I was going to San Antonio. I even offered Chief Esparza, I'll go do a blood test at San Antonio. I'll pay for it if I need to. I know it's a little late, but still with blood, a blood test would still be something that's traceable if there was something there. And he said there was no need to do that. I hope that I answered your question with that.
Anything else, commissioners?
You know, Chief, I see your side, but then of course we have our SOGs that we have to abide by. And, you know, if there was still doubt that you might have hit something, I know that you said that they told you, they cleared you. But it's still,
Mr. Martinez was there, the main facilities and bus transportation manager. And he's like, I don't see anything there either. If we need anything else, we'll let you know. I doubt it, this is gonna go anywhere. He said, there's no proof that you hit the bus. If you say you didn't hit the bus, you didn't hit the bus. This scuff mark could have been done somewhere else. And I took it and ran with that. Knowing now how everything fell, now it could have been prevented with, and the only thing is that's just going to prove my innocence, that I'm not under the influence, which any given day, you can do a drug screen on me. Yeah.
that's not the question, Chief.
Yeah, and I know the policy, okay? I know the policy, policy that hasn't been followed either with our paid staff, it's always been discretionary thing. I do have an incident at our station where a paid guy created damage to the gator and the door, and individual wasn't sent for a drug screen. I mean, things happen.
Chief, this is not about anybody else but you.
No, I know.
And I'm gonna read you the one
But the thing is
section.
that I think that if we're gonna have policies, they need to be everybody's policy, not just certain individuals' policies. No, the transportation supervisor, director of transportation for it's Socorro, or now I'm saying Socorro, Sanelli Independent School District. Yeah, he was there. Yes, the immediate supervisor was there, and then Mr. Martinez got there after that. I spoke to him. SRO officer was there next to us. He just said, let's just give me your information in case something else needs to be done. I said, I'm willing to write a statement if you need me to. He says, there's no need for anything right now. And next Monday morning is when they called me and says, hey, we're gonna need this, and other. And that's when I called Chief Esparza immediately and says, hey, this is what happened.
Chief, you said you know the policy very well. I'm gonna read you what it says on chapter 11, district-owned vehicles. This is separate from what it says for the drug screening, right? I'm only gonna read the first one that says, vehicle accidents involving a district-owned vehicle. All incidents involving a district-owned vehicle will be reported to the ESD number 2 fire chief promptly, regardless of how small the damage or who is at fault.
Okay, in my mind, I didn't have anything that met that criteria, and that's the only reason that you weren't notified until Monday morning. It's not that it was trying to be hidden from anybody, it's just, we have the discretion to call fire marshal or not at a scene, in my mind, I didn't hit a school bus. There's nobody else involved but a crash barrel that was not damaged. Our vehicle was not damaged. In my mind, I'm good. And the school district's mind, they're okay with it too, until their driver decides to claim back injuries. And now they're forced to do something. Even though that off the record, they've said, I know it's not something that should have been done, but we cannot deny the fact that our driver is now claiming injuries.
See, and I guess now it's solidified that it is true that you did hit it, correct?
Correct?
And with that being said, I mean, they've got cameras in there. So I mean, they didn't tell you there were cameras in there? I mean.
No,
Wow. Yeah.
and I think the school officials were like, why are you, kind of like looking at security, why are you bothering me with this when there's nothing here? In his mind as well, until the bus driver claimed injuries, because everything escalated that Monday morning forward. Had it been a big issue for the school district as well, I'm pretty sure that they would have said, I need to see your next chain of command here. Or the SRO officer would have created a report as well. And, you know, I'm going based on all the things happening around me. Had the school district or the SRO officer would have said, you know what, let's do a crash report. Then I would have called Roger immediately from there.
It's private
Because he
property.
didn't,
It is private property.
well,
It's public, yet it's private.
It's public property. And it
You
is
can't cite
controlled
you
by
on
the sheriff's
other than a
department.
public roadway. They can't do a crash report on anything other than a public roadway.
But they could have generated an incident report. And that was not done because,
I'm sorry? I did not. All I know that they did ask for your driver's license, correct?
I'm sorry?
They did ask for your driver's license and information?
Well, I verbally gave it to them because, you know, I wasn't being detained, I wasn't under arrest, so I don't have to identify, but, you know, I did identify.
They had their SRO there, school resource officer.
He
that's
didn't
part of the
ask
sheriff's
for
department.
identification either.
But, you know, they tend to only stick to the school section of it. So on something like that, they tend not to want to do it. Plus, it is in private property, so they don't do a crash report when it's outside of a public roadway.
No, you're fine.
If it happens in a store or somewhere else that is not a public roadway, they don't do a crash report.
But it
They're
is,
pretty much
it
exchange,
is public property, it's not private property.
right, but it's not a public
Because
roadway. The parking lot. It is, but it's considered private property.
No,
It is, but it's still considered private property.
okay. I'm not here to sit down and argue this. I mean, I own it. It's up to you what you want to do with it now. What's done can't be undone. You know, we just can't do that, you know?
Chief, the only concern I have on this is, you know, looking at the video and seeing how you hit the bus and showing you backing up and then driving around and you not realizing that that occurred. I just don't understand, you know, why you didn't realize.
Because in my mind, I hit the barrel, the two pieces of tire sidewall that are like 30 pounds each are hitting the undercarriage of my vehicle. You know, the jolt was, I thought that was a jolt, okay? That's when I readjusted and finished what I was doing. Had I hit the bus, I would have stayed there because one, I don't know if there's kids loaded in the bus or not, okay? Two, I wasn't approached immediately. I had time to get off, move the barrel, go around and finish my maneuver, okay? At that time, I was like, okay, stupid me, I hit the barrel. I should have not been lazy and moved it out of the way. Hope that answered your question.
Yeah, one more time, please.
You know,
Can we-
sure. I mean, 15 months ago, I made a promise to Commissioner Barnes, Commissioner Santana, and Chief Esparza, after my reinstatement, that certain things had to be corrected, okay? And I think I've jumped through milestones to correct those items that we should be busy and concerned about other departments that need to go through those milestones and correct their issues as well, instead of trying to get somebody that's progressing, okay? And I'm not saying you're after me, okay? But I think has been blown out of proportion. I think that if the bus driver wouldn't have claimed what I call fraudulent back injuries, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you today. Okay. So, and
Where I get it, you may have thought he was a girl. Plus, I understand the SRO coming out, the school, Martinez, school.
super,
Weapons out there, but I think there's probably, my assumption is that I mentioned on leadership, I see a fire chief, I see just, you know what I'm saying, important.
honestly, at the end of the day, the only thing I'm worried about today is somebody questioning my integrity. Okay? And that's the only thing that I have left. At my age, you hang on to that. Okay? And I know that most of you are at that age to where you hang on to your integrity because you don't go 42 years in the fire service and on the 43rd year, your integrity is questioned. And that's my only concern today. Regardless of what you all decide to do today, as long as my integrity is intact, I could give a, okay, yep.
Commissioner. El Paso County, C number 2 is now entering into a closed meeting pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551-071 to consult with district attorney concerning all matters identified on the agenda where the board seeks advice from their attorney to previous communication. The date is Thursday, March 23rd, 2023, and time is 6:18. El Paso County ESD number 2 has completed its closed meeting. The date is Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. Time is 6:39 PM. Item number 6 was one agenda item, special meeting Tuesday, March 14, 2023 by Vice President Diaz and Commissioner Barnes, discuss and take action on the crash between Chief 601 Raimundo Treviso and a parked SEISD school bus.
All right, Chief, we came up with this 90 days no driving a district-owned vehicle. And before driving a district-owned vehicle, after the 90 days, you shall take a defensive driving course before resuming to drive a district-owned vehicle.
Is the district going to provide that course at that particular time? Because that could extend it another 2 months.
You can take the state driver's course.
Defensive driving, you can do it online.
You're thinking the one that
The EVOC course,
they have at,
Golden Corral.
Oh,
down mine.
and is that following protocol or what is that following?
It actually does. So the only thing they're changing is our mandate says that you'll take the EVOC course, but for you, they'll let you take the defensive driving course.
And that you're recognized. Anything that's causing service. That's fine. I mean, I'm okay with that.
Still respond to calls.
I'm fire chief, yeah, I'm just not gonna drive. I'm not gonna go to call, you know, it defeats the purpose. I'm not going to go to the station and miss the bus as the head of the department. I will not do it. So just be prepared to. Well, I mean, it's immediate. Right now? It's immediate. I mean, that's fine. I mean, like I said.
Well, Chief, you know,
I own it and whatever, I said, whatever y'all decide, it's just that you're not punishing me, you're punishing the constituents of this county. I just want that to be known and on record.
And on record as well, Chief, you know, the way you came across right now, it's almost like you were like telling us, like, because of your decision, you know, it's like, it's your fault. It's our fault.
No,
I mean,
it's gonna happen because January of 2021, or January 2022, our department missed 38 calls. The last 2 months, our department has lost our assistant chief, and those numbers are not to medical reason. Our numbers are still good, missing 1 or 2 calls in a month, running 160 to 150 calls. You know, I'm just saying, you're not punishing me, you're punishing the constituents by not responding to the call.
Okay.
That's all I've got. I'm sorry?
I like it, our constituency, you got policies.
Well, the constituents, meaning the common people that will serve it. It is.
I'm gonna ask if you keep the order louder. We need to fix the moment.
Well, I can tell you this, I'm not gonna use my private vehicle to go to the station and stand there with the equation of the road. If I can't drive, I can't operate it as the head of the department. That's all I'm saying. I think you can. I don't know how. I don't know
as a
how.
leader, Chief, you would find a way to work around it. But, you know, like I said, It's like you're blaming us for what happened, for what happened, chief. And I
said, whatever y'all decide, that's fine.
exactly. I mean, but you're still here fighting us, chief. I mean, it's like you're trying to prove us, like trying to get us back in there and take back what we just said. It could have gone worse, chief. It could have gone worse.
No, you've all made your decision, and that's it.
Okay, chief, understood. I think we need to squash this. It's done. It's already been announced. Any
Right.
other questions, sir? Okay,
Do I have a motion?
motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Diaz, second by Commissioner Glidden. Commissioner Diaz?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes? Commissioner Glidden?
Aye.
Motion carries. Commissioners, can I have a motion to delete item number 9 through 10?
Motion.
A motion by Commissioner Diaz, second by Commissioner Barnes. Commissioner Diaz?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes? And Commissioner Glidden?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 11, discuss and approve the next meeting to take place on, we have it scheduled for April 18th at 6 PM. Are you all okay with that? No, that's a regular meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Barnes, second by Commissioner Diaz. Commissioner Diaz?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes? And Commissioner Glidden?
Aye.
Adjournment at 6:46 PM.
Can I have somebody from the district meet me at the department tomorrow to take inventory of equipment and the people, because I will not need help. Sir?